historically been this way, particularly in North Carolina. This kind of voter suppression has really been a thing. And it's been growing ever increasingly, really since Donald Trump's second run at the White House in terms of him announcing it, because people in the state of North Carolina really, when you look at the maps here, the fact is that it is already structured and set up for the potential of this gerrymandering that is possibly going to come to pass, where you have clusters of Democrats there, and that's largely centralized around major cities. And as a result, the structure and the setup is something that Republicans, the GOP, will create districts based on what works best to ensure that the vote is watered down for those communities. And these discriminatory practices, as I mentioned, have been going on for a long time. Here is some of the reporting from 2022 by the Brennan Center for Justice to give you a full look at what this is. So in 2013, the Supreme Court invalidated the formula in Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act that determined which states were subject to preclearance. In the years since that decision in Shelby County v. Holder, political gridlock in Congress has thwarted efforts to update the formula and bring the Voting Rights Act back to full strength. That failure has allowed North Carolina to enact some of the most discriminatory district maps in its history after the 2020 census. Overall, by and large, North Carolina, well, it leads the way among the most gerrymandered states in the nation. Here are the top 5. North Carolina, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Louisiana. And this hits me at home because I am licensed in Maryland. I took a bar there. And the thought that you would think, hey, this is kind of in the north. Nah, not so much. Because really the move to oppress the vote of marginalized people is nationwide. Mondale.
Yeah, it's nationwide, and I tell people all the time, voter suppression is as American as apple pie and baseball, and we shouldn't forget that. And it's not just a Southern thing, as you pointed out. We saw Pennsylvania on that list. This is a problem, and I'm glad you said it is really an attack on what we call democracy. How can we say we have a democracy when we allow partisan players to act in this manner? We see Republicans take control of the Supreme Court in North Carolina, and they get right back to the business of ensuring that Republicans hold control of state legislatures and also state congressional seats. This is a disgusting state when you think about the fact that if you look at the number of Democrats and the number of Republicans, they're almost even in the state, but the districts don't represent that. And I think we should figure out a way in this country at the federal level to prevent partisans from playing in politics in this manner. We should not have people's votes being relegated to their skin color, and that's exactly what's happening right now.
Absolutely, that is exactly what's happening. And as we noted earlier, that the Republican majority of this North Carolina Supreme Court, what they also had done in their rulings today is they upheld the state's felony disenfranchisement law. And that effectively denies voting rights for over 56,000 individuals in the state. And this came after a lower court there had struck down that law because it clearly discriminated against Black voters. Again, the fact is that our society is not operating as a democracy by virtue of the reality that it's looking to ensure that wealthy white men remain in power and make all the decisions for how this country proceeds, and especially making those decisions to their benefit.